It weighed exactly 3 pounds, a heavy-duty socket, no bigger than a soda can. In a garage, dropping it would be a minor annoyance. But on September 18, 1980, inside Titan II missile silo 374-7 in Damascus, Arkansas, that 3-pound piece of steel became the most dangerous object on the planet. It fell 70 feet. It struck a fuel tank thinner than a dime, and in that instant, a countdown began that no one was prepared for. Inside that missile was a W-53 thermonuclear warhead, 9 megatons, 3 times the power of all the bombs dropped in World War II combined. This is the story of the 9 hours when the American Heartland held its breath, and the 2 men who walked into a literal bomb to save their world. Damascus, Arkansas is a quiet place. Rolling hills, cattle farms, and churches. But beneath the soil lay one of the Cold War's most terrifying secrets, the Titan II. It was 103 feet tall. It could reach Moscow in 30 minutes. It was a weapon of mutually assured destruction. But the Titan II was old technology. It used liquid fuel, Aerozine 50, and nitrogen tetroxide. These chemicals are so toxic that one breath will melt your lungs. They are so unstable that they ignite on contact with each other. The Air Force called the missile the Beast. On this night, a 2-man maintenance team was performing a routine pressure check. They were tired. They were human. And when the socket slipped from the wrench, the Beast woke up. The socket didn't just dent the tank. It punctured it. Immediately, high-pressure fuel began spraying into the silo like a fire hose. The air in the silo turned into a white, lethal fog. Inside the control center, a few hundred feet away, the alarms went crazy. Fuel leak. The crew commander had a choice: evacuate the silo or try to vent the pressure, but the sensors were failing. The electricity was sparking. If the fuel reached the oxidizer tank, the entire structure would become a 100-foot-tall grenade. Hours passed. The Pentagon was on the line. The White House was watching. The Air Force needed someone to go back in. 2 men stepped forward, Dave Powell and Jeffrey Plumb. They knew the risks. They knew the Beast was groaning under the pressure. They climbed down the narrow access tunnel. The heat inside the suits reached 100 degrees. Their visors fogged up. They were walking through a literal cloud of explosives. Every time their metal boots hit a steel grate, they prayed there wouldn't be a spark. They reached the valve. They tried to turn it. It wouldn't budge. The pressure was too high. The Beast was winning. At 3 o'clock in the morning, the inevitable happened. The fuel reached the oxidizer. In a fraction of a second, the 740-ton concrete silo cover, the weight of 2 Boeing 747s, was blown into the air like a frisbee. The missile disintegrated. Dave Powell was thrown through the air. Jeffrey Plumb was buried in debris. And the 9-megaton warhead? It was launched out of the silo and into a nearby forest. Silence returned to Damascus. But for the next few minutes, no one knew if the warhead had survived the impact, or if it was about to detonate. If that warhead had detonated, the state of Arkansas would have ceased to exist. Little Rock would have been vaporized. Radiation would have swept across the East Coast. Search teams found the warhead lying in a ditch, looking like a giant dented silver egg. The safety switches had held. By a miracle of engineering and the luck of the physics, the broken arrow, the military term for a lost nuclear weapon, remained dormant. But the revelation wasn't just that they survived. It was that the government had known for years that these missiles were accidents waiting to happen. They were a secret danger to the very people they were meant to protect. One man, David Livingston, died in the explosion. 21 others were injured. Dave Powell and Jeffrey Plumb survived, but they carried the weight of that night forever. The Titan II program was eventually decommissioned. The beasts were removed from the Earth. But the Damascus incident remains a haunting reminder. Our greatest threats aren't always the enemies across the ocean. Sometimes it's a 3-pound socket and the terrifying fragility of the systems we trust to keep us safe. History celebrates the generals and the treaties, but it's the technicians in the mud and the airmen in the dark that keep the world turning. Dave Powell once said he didn't feel like a hero. He felt like someone doing a job. But on a quiet night in Arkansas, that job saved a nation. The next time you drop a tool or make a small mistake, remember Damascus. Even the smallest objects carry the weight of history. If you believe that quiet courage is what keeps the world together, subscribe to the Time Navigator. Because history is made in the dark, and we're here to find the light. Until next time, watch your step.